In the dimmest of ancient times, the Greek god Zeus fell in love with a beautiful girl named Io. He changed the girl into a heifer and enjoyed secret rendezvous with her. But his wife, who learned of the affair, turned herself into a gadfly to sting the girl. Io fled, swimming across the strait, lowing sadly all the way. Since that time, this strait has been called Bosphorus in Greek, which means the place swum across by a heifer. This is the Bosphorus Strait, famous for the romance from the Greek mythology. And this strait is the very borderline separating Asia from Europe. The right-hand side of the picture is Asia, and the left-hand side is Europe. The strait is 30 kilometers long from north to south, but is only 800 meters wide at the narrowest spot. This belt of water, only 800 meters wide, therefore, has separated Asia from Europe, the Orient from the Occident. (1,560 meters long, with 6 lanes for the vehicles running both ways. The Great Bosphorus Bridge was completed in 1973. It serves as the main artery linking the two great continents, with its legs standing firmly on either side, one in Asia, the other in Europe. Across the strait lies Istanbul. We, the members of the Silk Road team who have sought the prosperity of the old capital of the great Tang dynasty, Chang'an, and dreamed the nights of the Arabian Nights in Baghdad, are now standing right in front of the glorious ancient Turkish capital of Istanbul. A bay shaped just like a horn of an ox cuts into the European side of the Bosphorus Strait. Since ancient times, people have called this bay the Golden Horn Bay because of its great importance. The Golden Horn Bay used to be a treasure of fish, a harbor visited by trading vessels, and a military port, receiving supplies of arms and food carried by military vessels. Sailing north across the Bosphorus Strait from the Golden Horn Bay, the sea route leads to the Black Sea and is then linked with the steppes of the Silk Road. To the south it leads to the Mediterranean and further to the open sea. The spot seen right below here, facing the Golden Horn Bay, is the heart of Istanbul. Once in ancient times the capital of the Roman Empire and the royal capital of the Ottoman or the Turkish Empire, it successively flourished in glory. The joint histories of the two capitals lasted for 1,600 years, exceeding by far that of Baghdad or Chang'an. Golden Horn Bay, the seat of these two capitals, is truly worthy of its name. Europe at last. This was the first impression we had when we entered Istanbul. The Turks, the Armenians, the Jews, the Slavs, the Russians, the Arabs, the Greeks, and the Romans. The blood of all these people have been mixed to present a unique atmosphere. Having journeyed from China through Central Asia and become familiar with the faces of the Hans, Mongols, and other Asian people, here in Istanbul we were to become acquainted with the Europeans. The Europeans, however, are said to consider Istanbul as an Oriental city. probably because the majority of the people in Istanbul are Turks of Asian ancestry, and also because of the long history of this city as the capital of the Ottoman Empire. In Istanbul, the Orient meets Europe, and Europe meets the Orient. It is indeed the junction of the Eastern and Western cultures, and the melting pot of both civilizations. Istanbul was once called Byzantium after a Greek named Biozas established a colony here. Due to its geographical position, Byzantium became a leading trading port in the Mediterranean Sea and developed into a great commercial city which reigned supreme over the sea route of the Silk Road. And the time came when Byzantium developed further. In 330, the capital of the Roman Empire was moved to this city. The capital was named Constantinople, after the name of the then emperor, Constantinus. This is St. Sophia Temple, which bears witness to the past glory of Constantinople. St. Sophia stands for the divine wisdom of God, and this is the great cathedral dedicated to that wisdom. More than 500,000 workmen were mobilized, and nearly 6 years were spent to complete this building. On the festival celebrating its completion, the emperor murmured, "O God, we have finally accomplished this great task. King Solomon, I have beaten you." On the dome of the facade of this great cathedral is a painting of Jesus Christ and the Holy Mother. The painting reveals from above the presence of the Almighty God, who grants mercy to all living creatures. On entering from the front gate, one can see fabulous mosaics on the walls of the corridors. Painted in the center of the picture are the Holy Mother and Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is colored with gold leaves, revealing him as the embodiment of divine wisdom. Emperor Constantinus holds the capital, Constantinople, in his hands as an offering to Jesus Christ. And Emperor Justinian, on the left-hand side, is holding St. Sophia Temple. This is the solemn declaration that Jesus Christ himself is the master of St. Sophia Temple, the almighty ruler of Constantinople, the Roman Empire, and the whole world. Constantinople is a triangular-shaped city. Two sides face the sea, and enormous castle walls are built on the remaining side to prevent invasion by enemy forces. In an old Chinese book, we find these words. A large gate is built on the eastern side of the castle. It is 20 feet tall and is decorated with gold from top to bottom. It shines brightly for a distance of several miles. These castle walls, built by Emperor Theodosius, have indeed protected the prosperity and glory of Constantinople for over 1,000 years. Constantinople, the capital of Roman Empire, was referred to in a Chinese history book as the Great Qin Country. 1,023 years after it was built, this eternal city was on the verge of decline. The enemies were the army of the Ottoman Empire in Asia. Having stored their strength steadily for 150 years while they built their country, they finally turned their swords towards the headquarters of the Roman Empire. It was a daring and ferocious attack. The leader of the invading army was Sultan Muhammad II, known as the Great Conqueror. He sent an ultimatum to the Roman Empire in Constantinople, saying, "Either the capital will die or I will be killed. I am determined to seize the capital." The battle was not a mere fight to seize or defend a city. It was the declaration of war by the Ottoman Empire, whose people believed in Islam, against Christianity, and the War of the Turks, a horse-riding race from Asia against the world of Greece and Rome. Muhammad the Conqueror and his army crossed the Bosphorus Strait, which divides Asia from Europe, and built a castle ready to seize Constantinople. It was the first step of the great conquest, which even Genghis Khan and Timur could not accomplish. As might be expected, however, the defense of Constantinople was firm. The city was protected by castle walls and the sea. Chains were stretched around the entrance of Golden Horn Bay to prevent the invasion by warships. Muhammad the Conqueror contrived a stratagem to carry his ships across the mountain. He planned to carry his warships across a mountain from the Bosphorus Strait to Golden Horn Bay to attack Constantinople from the flank. 70 ships were carried across the mountain. The issue was decided. "Isn't there a single Christian who will stab a sword in my chest?" These were the last words of the last emperor of Constantinople. Constantinople fell. Islam conquered Christianity, and Asia conquered Europe. May the 29th, 1453, was the day when a great change in the world's history was announced. It was the day when the capital at the western end of the Silk Road, Constantinople changed its name to Istanbul. We visited the slope along which Muhammad the Conqueror carried his ships. The road passes through the residential district of Istanbul. The people living on both sides of the road knew the historic story. For the Turks, this slope leading across the mountain reveals a glorious page in the history of their race. It was the slope along which their race, who continued advancing from the north of the Tian Shan Mountains to Central Asia and North Iran, climbed to the top of world history. Byzantium, Constantinople, and Istanbul. The duplicating cultures of the three cities have been woven into a beautiful brocade. And this modern capital, Istanbul, always fascinates the visitors. The Grand Bazaar. We have seen bazaars in Peshawar, Isfahan, and Samarkand. All the bazaars on the Silk Road have been filled with energy and smiling faces of the people. The bazaars in Istanbul, where we are walking now, welcome us with a charm no less than that of those countries. Men, power, states and empires have changed, but not the bazaars. For more than 2,000 years since the Greeks built their colony here, the voices of dealers selling gold, silver, ivory, jewelry, carpets and silk have never ceased. How many stores exist here in the Grand Bazaar? How many merchants are at work? And how much has been invested here? These people don't bother much to find the answers. Carpets costing $150,000 and more are sold at this store. We fancy that they may be the flying carpets from the Arabian Nights. The goods here have come from India and even China. Spices from Southeast Asia and Africa.
Ya, sürekli karak yani.
O kadar acil değil diyor.
Yok, o da sanki yedi şey açıyor.
Benden kara kara.
아, 단다 가라고. 나 누르자. 아따만은 힘이 있네.
O kadar acil.
아주 맛이 마셔보세요.
Hani gibi kırdı.
자, 먼저 더 오고 있는 거야. 아, 맞습니까? 이거죠. 말아봐. 本当バザール。どうぞ。はい、行きましょう。
On the upper level of the Alibaba store, we met the old master, clad in authentic Turkish Ottoman costume. Holding his nargila in one hand and with a welcoming smile on his bearded face, he reminded us of many people we had met before throughout our long journey on the Silk Road.
hoş geldin. どうも。こんにちは。この人、このご主人ですか。
Siz buranın sahibi misiniz?
Ben buranın sahibiyim.
おいくつですか。
Kaç yaşındasınız?
75 var.
75 歳.
75。
Ya 75 var. Buyurun.
We were served Turkish tea in the traditional style
Afiyet olsun.
and chatted about Alibaba of the Magic Lantern and about a vanished world, glimpses of which still exist in this bazaar.
ところで、そのおじさん、いつ頃から商売やってるんですか。
Bu dükkan ne zamandan beri sizin acaba?
Bu dükkana girerken gördünüz kapının üzerinde Ali Baba yazıyor. Ali Baba. Ali Baba benim dedemin dedesinin dedesinin dedesiydi. Ta bu dükkan Alaaddin'in lambası devrinden beri yaşar, çalışır.
この店の看板にも出てるように、アリババってありましたですね、店の看板にも。だからその時代からもうやってる店だそうです。
アリババの昔から。本当ですか。
Evet,
本当
evet,
ですか。
evet.
本当だそうです。
本当ですか。
はい
The nargila, or water pipe of the Orient, is an essential prerequisite in the setting of the Grand Bazaar.
吸うわけ。
吸うわけ。
いやー、生まれて初めてタバコ吸いましたよ。
大変。
ああ、辛いですね。おじさん、孫何人いますか。
Kaç tane torununuz var sizin?
6.
6人oluyor.
6人。全部商売ですか。
Herkesi çalışıyor mu sizin gibi dükkanda? Yani çalışıyor.
Çalışır, çalışır.
全部商売。
このグランドバザールで。
Istanbul is a city of mosques, the number of which exceeds 1,000. This number is not often to be found in many Islamic capitals. Friday is the day of communal prayer at the mosques. This is the Blue Mosque, which is said to be the most beautiful mosque in the whole world. More than 10,000 worshippers gather here, as in other mosques in the city. At noon, when prayers begin, few people are to be seen walking in the streets of Istanbul. While St. Sophia Temple is the monument of the past glory of the Roman Empire, the Blue Mosque is the symbol of modern Turkey. The religious sermons during the Friday prayers are given in both Arabic and Turkish. Istanbul is no longer the capital of Turkey. When the Republic of Turkey was established, the capital was moved to Ankara. 60 years have elapsed since then. The splendor of this city as the capital of the Roman and the Ottoman Empire is a thing of the past. But it continues to enthrall the visitors. Istanbul is now like an old man, having passed his youth and manhood. And yet the face of Istanbul still wears the gentle smile of a person who has admirably survived through his life. Leaving Istanbul, we entered Greece. Having passed Macedonia, the birthplace of Alexander the Great, and Athens, the center of the ancient Greek civilization, we went on to Cape Sunio, which projects into the Mediterranean Sea. The white building rising at the edge of the cape is the temple dedicated to Poseidon, the god of the sea. Protected by Poseidon, the ancient Greeks played an active role in the Mediterranean. They built colonies and trading houses in Spain, Italy, and the northern coast of Africa, and the cities were linked by trading ships. This is the sea route of the Silk Road, which we are now to follow. Exciting information reached us. An ancient trading vessel had been found lying on the seabed off Syria, the eastern coast of the Mediterranean. The site was about 3 kilometers off Tartus harbor in Syria. What kind of vessel could it be? We were supposed to head westward to Rome, but we changed our course back to the east. In Syria, there are divers who gather sponges, and it was one of them who happened to find the sunken ship. Our cameramen were guided by the Syrian diver. The water was comparatively clear. Despite the assurances of the Syrian diver, our cameraman wondered whether a ship really was lying at the bottom of the sea. Even if there was a wreck, maybe it was just a recent one. "40 meters down, and there in front of us, we saw hundreds of jars. Enormous numbers of them were piled up high. It is extremely rare to find so many jars so close together like this. The shape of the boat was no longer visible, but these jars must surely be the cargo of a ship. Cargoes are usually marked with the names of the places of production and the place of manufacture. We believed that when the shells and seaweed covering the jars were removed, such names would surely appear. The relics on the seabed which suddenly appeared before the divers might be a great archaeological discovery, but we would have to wait for the result of scientific examination. This jar with a handle might have contained olive oil or wine. The long stick-shaped thing could perhaps be a stone anchor. But to what age do these jars belong? The one with an ear-shaped handle is known as amphora and was often used in the Greek and Roman periods. But we cannot guess the age of the jars only from their shapes. The divers picked up one of the jars as a sample to be sent back to the General Direction of Archaeology of Syria for the opinions of experts. Our two cameramen, Miyazaki and Komatsu, surfaced.
はっきりわかんない。壺はすごいやっぱり。
すごいすごい。
2、300。
誰しもいんの？
2、300ある。
あと2、300。船。
でわかんないですよ。
船らしい。
塊って感じ。
船は船でしょ。船。だけど船の形はないよ。ただ壺はね。
すごいね。
オーケーオーケー。
グッ。
うわそういうカメラいっぱい。
持ち上げてきた。一本。
なんでしょうね。お色がついてるな。オッケーオッケー。カメラどこだ？はいはいはいどうも。Berapa kembang? Dapat dialog. 2400年前だ。
すごいね、数がね。
いや、素晴らしい。素晴らしい。
Our excitement at this find was obvious. After a while, word reached us from the General Direction of Archaeology of Syria. As a result of academic examination, it is considered that the jar belongs to the period a little before the age of Alexander the Great, and is perhaps 2,500 years old. The opinion of a Japanese archaeologist who had seen our film was much the same. The trip from Greece to Italy via Syria was the last voyage in our long journey along the Silk Road. "18 hours after leaving Greece, we were about to enter the harbour city of Brindisi in the southern part of Italy. Brindisi, an old harbour city. A highway runs between Brindisi and Rome. It is the Appian Way, which was the most important trunk road of all the roads of the Roman Empire. Our plan was to drive the 500 kilometers of this Appian Way from Brindisi to Rome. At last we stepped onto Italian soil, the 10th and indeed the last country in our journey since leaving China. On the day when we landed at Brindisi, the harbour city was at the peak of festival, bustling with crowds of townspeople. was a grand cycling festival in which the grown-ups and the children, men and women, all take to bicycles and tour their town. The cheerful brass band and the bright smiles of the people of this southern Italian town almost seemed like a special welcome for the Silk Road team. A stone pillar stands overlooking Brindisi harbour. It is the memorial pillar showing that this is the terminal station of the Appian Way. It also indicates that it is the starting point of the sea route. It was 2 centuries after the birth of Jesus Christ, the age of the later Han in China. As written in an ancient Chinese history book, the messenger of Anton, the king of Great Qin, arrived in Chang'an. The messenger of the Roman Emperor, Marcus Aurelius, was dispatched from this harbour. The old Chinese silk, which delighted the noblemen's ladies in Rome, is supposed to have been unloaded at this harbour and carried to the capital. There was another sea route leading to the capital of the Roman Empire. It started from Ostia harbour, situated only 30 kilometres from Rome. This was the front gate of the empire. At the corner of this harbour city was a market, finely partitioned, where trading stores stood side by side, and the advertisements of the merchandise were painted on the pavement. The beautiful mosaic advertisements have remained until today. This is an elephant, an advertisement of a trading store importing ivory from Africa. The space between the pillars formed a compartment. This might have been a wholesale store for marine products. MC indicates Caesar's Morocco. This was the store where date palms grown in Morocco were sold. Here again we notice the presence of the sea route of the Silk Road connecting Rome with the Orient. The shape of this jar resembles closely that of the amphora we discovered on the seabed in Syria. All roads lead to Rome. We continued our way northward along the Appian Way towards Rome. The construction of the Appian Way began in 312 BC. Several other roads were also built to connect various cities in the great Roman Empire. The Appian Way later crossed the border to reach the Orient and Persia, and later still it was connected with the Silk Road, which stretched far from east to west. A long, single road. The Silk Road finally linked Chang'an with Rome. The Silk Road was the place where goods were exchanged. It was the road by which skills were transmitted. And above all, it was the road along which people of different races traveled back and forth. With them also were carried their hearts. People living in distant countries came to know each other's hearts through the Silk Road. Mistakes gave rise to wars, but understanding eventually brought peace. We, the Silk Road team, have continued our journey seeking the hearts of the different peoples living along this road. On June the 4th, 1984, we reached Rome, the final destination of our journey. China, Pakistan, India, Iran, Iraq, the Soviet Union, Syria, Turkey, Greece, and Italy. The distance we covered was 300,000 kilometers, or 7.5 times the circumference of the Earth. We drove through the city to reach the Colosseum. This enormous monument, a worthy symbol of the ancient Roman Empire, is a fitting destination for our long journey to Rome. On the day of our arrival in Rome, the Italian radio was broadcasting a greeting to us. The Marco Polos of the Orient have arrived in Rome. They have covered the entire distance of the Silk Road, not on camels, but by car. The Italian radio went on further. They have always carried the description of the world, the book of the great Italian traveler Marco Polo, with them. Marco Polo spent 24 years on the journey. We, the modern Marco Polos, have taken 5. The Japanese poet Yasushi Inui has written, "A great key, possessed only by the modern age, unlocked the Silk Road. A streak of light has come into the only area in the world which has been left as mysterious. Tien Shan, Kunlun, Pamir, Taklamakan Desert, the Tarim River. These were the places where 35 minority races repeated rises and falls. Emperor Wu and his expedition passed. The great priest Huan Xuancheng and his party advanced, and where for centuries camel caravans carried silk." We were fortunate enough to be able to take a glimpse of the actual writing of our great predecessor, Marco Polo, at the end of our long journey. His will was preserved with great care in the San Marco Library in Venice. O God, redeem my soul from all evils and sins. These were the last words of Marco Polo before his eventful life ended. Our journey is over. Here too end our documents. The modern edition of the descriptions of the world, written by us, the Silk Road team, who made the journey westward to Rome from the distant lands of the East.